Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you getting a weird echo?
Not yet. I think it's too early for me to tell just yet.
Okay. Just let me know.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I kind of feel like back in high school when I wanted to go and speak to that hot girl that I had a crush on. That nerves that you've got because you're a lawyer, like you know what you're talking about. So, but for me back in school when that happened, I actually went up to the girl and started speaking to her, and that was the last time we spoke for the rest of high school. So that's why I was nervous. So I'm nervous now. But anyway, thank you so much for joining, Angela.
You're welcome.
This is a topic that I've really wanted to dive into for probably since I started in 2014. So how did you get started in the industry and coming into like print on demand and trademark law and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I started out as more of a business and estate planning lawyer and switched to trademark law at about 2007.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
It's an interesting space. I mean, not understanding it has consequences, which I found out again back in 2015 is when I did it. But Counterfine came through and they booted me because they were able to go through the archives within Facebook and takedowns, which used to take 20 minutes or so, they said. They could then you do these takedowns in seconds. So effectively, tens of thousands of marketers were wiped off the platform. And that was the beginning of 2018. So
yeah,
I was one of them, and that's why Store Hacks exists, because I had nothing to do. So I started writing about my experience. But I won't. There's quite a few questions. I put a deck together just to go through.
Okay.
I know this is your first time seeing it, so some of you, if it's we'll just go through it, and if you can answer it, great. If not, then we'll move on to the next one.
Sure.
Sweet. All right. First up, the movie and TV quotes. What can you use? Can you use them like Hasta la Vista and like the ones we've got here? What do we got?
Well, the real question is, are these covered by some intellectual property theory that would not permit us to use them? And so there are three types of IP that are, well, there's more than this, but we have patents, we have trademarks, and copyrights. Patents are for useful inventions. We're going to set those aside this afternoon and just talk about trademarks and copyrights. Now, trademarks protect your brand and its association with your goods or services. A copyright protects your creative work. So creative works that can be protected by copyright are basically anything that is creative and it's reduced to a tangible medium of expression. So things like graphic design, poetry, architectural blueprints, software code, poems, books, those sorts of things. So basically anything that's creative and reduced to a tangible, meaning that we can see it, hear it, touch it, medium can be protected by copyright. Now, we're not talking about, you said, can we protect this? Can I use movie quotes and shirt designs? And the answer is yes. The Copyright Office has ruled that short phrases, individual words and short phrases, lack sufficient creativity to be registered by copyright, right? So it's not creative enough. So if that's what you're talking about, fine. But if somebody has registered a phrase like hasta la vista for clothing, then you could be violating somebody's trademark rights, although I would argue that the phrase in this case isn't being used as a trademark, it's being used as a decorative element. I mean, anytime you start answering or asking questions like this, there's a whole bunch of, there's a whole bunch of sub questions under it too, right? So when you start asking questions like this, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that could implicate other little bits and pieces of trademark or copyright law. But in this case, if you just want to know, can I put this movie quote, this short phrase on a trademark, on a t-shirt, and will it violate copyright law? The answer is no, it won't violate copyright law, but it could violate someone else's intellectual property in other ways. So one of the things that you need to understand is that these are very much facts and circumstances sorts of situations. So if you say to me, can I do XYZ? The answer is almost always going to be, well, it depends, because I have to see what you're doing and see what somebody else is doing to be able to tell you whether your thing infringes on their thing, right? So these things are very hard to talk about in the abstract, because these are always, this question of infringement is almost always a facts and circumstances kind of thing. There aren't a lot of bright line tests for infringement. So there are a whole bunch of factors that need to be brought in, and then we balance and weigh the factors, and then we say, yes, it probably infringes, or no, it probably doesn't infringe. So it's always very hard to answer these questions and say definitively, yes, you can, or no, you can't. It's always very much a facts and circumstances kind of thing.
Okay. So in this circumstance where you've got the ugly Christmas sweater sort of style with Arnie on the shirt as well, and you've got Walter White, the face right beside that quote, is that a little bit less ambiguous because you're clearly pulling on that reference to the movie or TV show?
I don't know. I mean, it depends. Do they have that face, that character register as the trademark for anything? I don't know. Anytime you're copying characters, that could be problematic. So especially if you're pulling like the one on the left, the Hasta La Vista, is that like a screen cap from a scene in the film? That could be problematic if it is.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, well, the one on the right there of Walter White is very similar to the one I kind of did back in 2014 that got flagged by Facebook. I mean,
why did it get flagged by Facebook?
Sony Entertainment was.
Okay.
Are they the claimant?
Yeah. Interesting.
So that came through, and at little old Ronnie, I couldn't respond to it. There's no way to say, well, I didn't know. I didn't know if I was infringing. I thought I might be. But I think that ambiguity around that sort of, well, since then certainly has stopped me from going anywhere near this sort of stuff. But it's always that interesting question, like, can we do this? So anyway.
Yeah, anytime you're copying anybody else's stuff, that's always a danger. Things that are satirical or make some kind of social commentary are always less of a danger. Like the ugly Christmas sweater is, it's kind of, and things that are like parody or, adding something to what somebody else has done are less likely to be seen as an infringement. But the thing is that if you do get sued for copyright infringement and you have to defend yourself, you may win, but you're going to be like a couple $100,000 poorer, right?
Yeah. But is it worth it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, these are very expensive things to litigate and expensive things to defend. Like there was one guy, okay, so this is like Parody, right? So the North Face? Yeah. Okay, so he started a brand of clothing and he called it the South Butt, right? It was meant to be kind of like satire, parody, whatever. Yeah. And he got sued by the North Face and he won But the only reason why he was able to win is because I think it was his dad was a trademark litigator or a copyright litigator or something like that. But yeah, I mean, he got sued and he had free legal counsel that was willing to help him pursue this against North Face. So, you know, it was found to be parody. And so he wasn't liable for trademark infringement. But, you know, how much would that have cost him?
Yeah, well, we don't all have access to free counsel, do we?
Right, right. And then there was also a case, Jordache jeans. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Jordache jeans or not, but there was a couple of ladies who started making, it was another parody case, right? They started making jeans and called them Lardache. They were plus size jeans, right? So they were making fun of themselves because they were both big ladies. And they won against Jordache, right? I mean, I don't know how much it cost them, but they won. So, I mean, you can win these cases.
Yeah.
But it's going to be expensive for you to litigate them. And is it really worth it? Is it really worth the hassle? Is it really, you know, it's one of those things where, yes, you can win, but do you want to?
Yeah, you know? Exactly. And that's what, again, it's like, it's too much headache for what it's worth. I mean,
right.
Like all I teach now is like unique concepts, like find phrases that work well, and then, you know, blend it with another one, make something completely unique. So you're going nowhere near anybody else's copyright. So
yeah, I mean, I always tell people, hey, stay away from other people's stuff, especially if it's a famous person's stuff or a famous sports team or a famous anything. Just stay away from it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, these get done a lot.
Yeah.
You know, team colors, if they don't, if you're not trying to make anybody else think that this is like official sportswear, these are probably fine, right? Fine. You're using the Phoenix Suns colors, big whoop, right? You know, Liverpool, I don't know what their colors are, probably United, right? Yeah. So maybe Man U's colors are red and white. I don't know. I don't watch soccer/football. These are likely going to be fine, right? Like the Rams one.
With the Rams logo.
Yeah. Anytime you start putting on logos, you're flirting with danger there. Especially if the lettering for Rams is like the Rams logo lettering.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So that's, you know, now you're starting to tiptoe around the edges. And, you know, you may get that taken down. So
I reckon you probably would. I know, like, the only reason I say that is because I've seen it happen. Like, again, going back when we first started, we've got a competition called the State of Origin for Rugby League here in Australia. And we never said anything about the names, but we did have the colors. We had blue and white and maroon and yellow. And they got taken down several times. So again, it's just like, why bother?
And you know, there's always this, just because it gets taken down doesn't necessarily mean it's infringing either. A lot of these big, so these platforms are kind of stuck in the middle, right? So they have, you know, we have the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and it gives these platforms a safe haven where they're not going to be sued for contributing to copyright infringement if they have a policy and they have some sort of mechanism for having infringing goods removed, right? So some of these companies will have goods removed and they'll allege that it infringes, even though it's really not an infringement. So that they do a little bit of bullying, I think. And just because it gets taken down doesn't necessarily mean it's an infringement. It just means that somebody complained.
Yes.
So now the platform is in the unenviable position of saying, well, you know, there was a complaint. So, and when the complainant is a big company with a lot of money to litigate, they're probably going to take that down more readily than if the complainant was just, Joe Schmo from Chicago. You know what I mean?
And they've typically got lawyers working for them 24/7, right? So they're
they're
looking out for this stuff.
Yeah. So, just because it's taken down doesn't necessarily mean that objectively it's an infringement. It just means somebody complained, usually somebody with money.
So that's enough to scare me typically, because I again, I'm speaking from experience, like having things taken down. It's like, these guys, they're putting out some pretty big shows or sports teams or whatever. They've got money to play with. Like,
they have billions, right? Millions and millions and millions of dollars will just outspend you. Car and bike images.
Yeah. So again, I guess is it similar to movie and TV quotes? Because obviously there's like the front ends of cars. They're very specific to the car that they come off.
I don't see any issue with these. I mean, this is basically just a drawing that somebody made. It wasn't a picture that somebody took off of like the car company's website or something like that. I don't see any issue with these. Yeah. Unless, there's some sort of trademark registration or like a design patent, or design.
I think Jeep has a design trademark on the grill. Like you can't use that.
BMW might as well for that, the kidney shaped grill.
Yeah. And is there a way to see where those sorts of things are trademarked? Like, is there a database?
Yeah. You can go search on images. Yeah. So you can go search by owner, right? So you could go see what trademarks BMW has. And you can sort them by images.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what website is that on? Is that the USPTO?
USPTO.gov. Yeah,
cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And what about these? Like, I know there's parody in some of this, but like when it says I'm a Jeep girl and it's obviously a Jeep on there or Tito's, what would be your judgment on that?
I don't see anything wrong with the I'm a Jeep girl. I mean, even though Jeep is a registered trademark of Dodge Chrysler, I forget what they're calling that conglomerate now. GMC, Dodge, Chrysler, whatever. It's not being used as a trademark. There actually probably is a trademark for Jeep for clothing. I think I've seen some Jeep brand shirts, but we're not using the term Jeep here as a trademark for that clothing, right? This is what's called nominative trademark use, where we're just identifying the trademarked goods, right? The Jeep vehicle. And we're saying, I'm a Jeep girl. I don't see a problem with that.
Sweet.
This is probably Tito's. That's funny. I like that. I don't see a problem with that unless, like I said, Tito's actually, no. So Tito's may have a trademark registration for things like, cups and drinking vessels or things like that. But again, we're not using the term Tito's as a trademark. In this instance, right? So I think this is probably Tito's is probably fine. The other two are parody, right? And this is getting like closer to tiptoeing around the edges, right? So we've got in the upper right there, just eat it instead of just do it, and we're displaying the Nike swoosh. In a decorative way, but it kind of looks like pizza.
I assume
Yeah, I'm assuming it's pizza. I don't know what else it would be.
It's a piece of their logo. Ha.
Right. Yeah, I mean, okay, so we could argue that it's parody. Fine. So keep in mind that there's a defense to to copyright infringement called, well, and this is trademark, could be trademark infringement. But when we get around to copyright infringement, there's this defense to a claim of copyright infringement called fair use. And fair use is things like, teaching, literary criticism, that sort of thing. That use in the context of teaching or criticism is considered fair use. So if I'm a teacher and I'm teaching literature and I take a short passage out of someone's book that's copyrighted material and I use it to illustrate some sort of literary concept, even though I've taken it, copied it, and reproduced it, that's considered fair use under the copyright laws because I'm doing it for a specific purpose, right? Mm-hmm. I'm teaching. Or if I walk into a restaurant and I take a picture of the menu and I put it in my article, my critique of the restaurant for the newspaper, that's also considered fair use. Yes, I've reproduced their menu, but it's for purposes of critique, right? Mm-hmm. So that's fair use. We don't really have any concept of fair use under trademark law, but there is this sort of exception for parody, right? Yeah. So are we taking, are we trying to persuade people that our stuff is somehow sponsored or associated by or associated with the trademark holder? In these instances, no, clearly it's parody, right? So these would probably be allowable under the trademark laws. But again, do you want to be sued and win, or do you, just not want to be hassled? I really think that both of these are cute, especially the Addy dogs.
Yeah,
those are darling. And I don't think that there would really be any damage to the trademark holder, because people who want the Addy Dogs t-shirt, yes, they want it because it's a play off of Adidas, but there's no association in the mind of the consumer. The consumer isn't thinking, oh, this is an Adidas knockoff, right?
Yeah,
they're probably not thinking that. But could you get sued for this? Oh yeah, absolutely. This is America, and anyone can sue anyone for anything. So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right. And this is a car and bike images again, like say cake toppers and silhouettes and whatnot. I'm guessing based on your previous comment, these are probably going to be fine as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even really identify what vehicles these are supposed to be. It just looks like kind of a generic truck and kind of a generic motorcycle.
Yeah.
I think this would be fine.
This one is actually very, it's a common thing. It's vectors. So you can go to, places like Vector Stop, and you can download the images, and you can either get a personal use or an extended use license on them. Yeah. If you're using those images in part of your design, but not as the whole design. So for instance, if on the right there, we've found that skull on Vector Stop, by itself, it's not going to sell any shirts.
Right.
And it's the phrase that really sells what it is that, you're putting on there. So if you use that vector in that design, is that okay without an extended license, or do you need that extended license still?
I wouldn't do it. I would get the extended license.
Sure.
Because if they have it registered with the Copyright Office, mm-hmm. I mean, they can get big damages from you.
Interesting.
For infringing their copyright because you didn't get the proper license.
Yeah.
So
very interesting.
I wouldn't even play around with that. I would just get the extended license.
Yeah. And then there's
the alternative is hire somebody to draw your own skull, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much would it cost to hire somebody on Fiverr to draw a skull? Probably not much, right?
No.
So,
And the other thing is, I think Canva is like $15 a month. And my understanding of their terms and conditions is so long as you're paying for the pro account, you can use any images that you get from their site in designs.
yeah, well, that's good. I mean, there are so many ways to get stock art and stock photos inexpensively that I just don't understand why people copy other people's stuff or violate the licenses, because it's so cheap to get the licenses, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, it's just, don't even mess around with it. Just go get a license and make your money.
Yeah. Good. I like that. And cease and desist letters. So somebody sends you a cease and desist, and then you're clearly not infringing on copyright. What legs do you have to stand on there? Is it just, again, do you have the money to fight it, or?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I've had clients, if you get a cease and desist letter, you really should hire an attorney to look at it for you, because a lot of times they send these cease and desist letters and they're absolutely ridiculous and they haven't a leg to stand on. I've gotten several times, cease and desist letters. The client hires me to look at the cease and desist letter, and I'll look at it and I'll look at what the client is doing. And I'm like, this doesn't even make any sense. Their trademark is X and you're doing Y and Z. It doesn't even match up, right? So a lot of this is what I like to call trademark bullying, where, the trademark holder is just pissed off that somebody else is making a buck, and it kind of maybe looks like their stuff, but it isn't, right? And people need to be allowed to be creative and, make a living. And if someone's not infringing your trademark, well, like I've had, there are some pretty notorious trademark bullies. These people who do the we buy ugly houses. They'll send really ridiculous trademark cease and desist / demand letters. And they're just truly ridiculous. And I'll just write back and say, my client isn't doing what you're accusing them of doing. And, we consider the matter closed. Have a nice day. I don't say the have a nice day part, but, you don't have any rights here. And my client is not going to comply with your demands. And so that's it. We're closing the file. Goodbye. If you get a cease and desist letter, go talk to a lawyer, because I think probably 75% of them they're just blowing smoke. They're accusing people of stuff that the people aren't doing.
And I've got another question here too, on Bible quotes and verses.
On what? Bible quotes?
Bible quotes. I imagine, because it's such a well-known book, they should be fine.
Bible quotes should be fine. I think it's pretty safe to say that the copyright, the Bible is now public domain, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. So how does one, for the people who are watching, how do they find out more information about you if they do need help? I think you've got a course as well, a free course I saw on your website as well.
Yeah, I'm right in the middle of moving all of my sales funnels over to Groove pages. And it's just, anytime you're using new technology, it can be kind of a nightmare. So the best way to see my newest stuff is to go to my YouTube channel. I publish pretty regularly on YouTube. And when I have courses to offer, you're going to find them there. I will be talking about them there. And you can go to video.trademarkdoctor.net /YouTube and you can find me there. I'm also at trademarkdoctor.net, but the free course link isn't working there right now because I moved the domain. So, growing pains. Anyway, yeah, that's how people can learn more about me. I put out content pretty regularly on YouTube. So I've got nearly 500 videos about trademark and copyright law there now.
Yeah. Look, I wish I had found you years ago, but I'm glad I found you. It must have been 6 months, 12 months ago that I first saw you pop up somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been incredible. I think it gives people a lot of more clarity. Because like even as an educator in this space with store hacks, I get the question all the time. Like, pretty much what I've been asking through this.
Well, if you want to do and ask me anything for the group, I don't know if you've got a group on Facebook, but what I've done in the past is said, hey, I'm gonna do and ask me anything. So people will post their questions. And then I'll come on live and answer them. And, people can either watch live or watch it later, but it helps me to know, what are people stumbling over? And I just kind of like answering people's questions. I think it's fun. So I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. Awesome. I won't keep you any longer. We've got this done a bit quicker than what I thought.
Okay.
If there's any questions, if
people are on and they have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Yeah. With regards to those vectors, are there ways that you can manipulate them? Like how much do you have to change them before you could use something if you were to do it yourself?
Yeah, they need to be a new creation. And again, it's really hard to know, okay, when is it new? And when is it too much of the old stuff? And I wish I could give you a definitive answer on this, but there's no what we call bright line test. There isn't a bright line test, right? Does it look new? If it looks new, then it's probably new. And if it doesn't look new, then it's not new.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just, these things are so subjective. So subjective. So the change needs to be transformative. Right. So it needs to be, you need to make it into a new thing. So yeah, where that line is, nobody knows.
Yeah, that's
why these issues get litigated so much, is because there's no bright line. We don't know where the line is. If we did, my job would be a lot easier. I wouldn't have to tell you all the factors that go into it. We could just, I could just give you an answer, but that's not how this works, unfortunately.
Yeah. We just had a couple of other questions come in. Parodies of political figures, is that okay?
Parody of what?
Political figures. So Trump.
Yeah, political figures are kind of fair game. Because, making fun of political figures is kind of part of our democracy. We've been doing it for, hundreds of years, making fun of politicians. And when you're a public figure, you don't have as much right to control your image because you're putting yourself out there. So you get a lot more leeway with public figures than you do with, private individuals.
Yeah, good. And song lyrics, are they the same as movie quotes?
Oh, it depends on how much you take, right? There was a case where Miley Cyrus got sued for copyright infringement. I did a video about this. And there was a phrase. The phrase was, "We run things, things don't run we." So she took that phrase. And that was the subject of a copyright lawsuit. She was sued by another artist. I think the artist was Jamaican, and he had a phrase like that in one of his songs. And, this was the source of some litigation about the copyright. I forget how it turned out, but she got sued, right? And they wanted hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages for that one phrase. And, like I said, I don't remember how it turned out, but if you're in court litigating over something, you've already lost. That's my attitude about it, just because it's so expensive. But in general, words and short phrases are not capable of being registered as copyright because they're not creative enough. So how short is short? I don't know.
Yeah.
So that was two lines from a song. Is that creative enough? Probably. You know?
So I've got a good question here. So if I make a very similar design to one of Ronnie's designs of a message card, am I infringing on copyright? So this is like, I'm not sure if you would have seen it, but it's print on demand jewelry.
Hold it up.
It's coming.
Oh, okay.
So we designed those cards in behind there.
Yeah.
So we built a course around this one because it did so well. It was so different. So Sean asked us if we could help people create these designs. So, but when we launched that, we did multiple variations of what. So that piece now sold 3,700 units.
Wow.
That's zero. The variations that we did, which is effectively the exact same phrase, but with different, like just mixing up the image a little bit.
Yeah.
That's gone on to do an extra 800 units. But what the question is, can other people see that quote, take it, and use it for their own benefit?
The quote or the design itself?
The whole thing, I guess. Like if it's inspired by, in terms of like it's just a copy, but they've used their own images, they've recreated it. Looks different to what we originally did, but still has the same elements to the design.
Okay, so it's got a quote and a design. That's not going to be capable of being protected by copyright. If they're using your image, that's going to be copyright infringement, but using the short phrase, probably not copyright infringement. If we consider it trade dress, it may be, if it's distinctive enough and you've been using it for long enough, we may be able to argue trade dress infringement, which is more of a trademark law flavor. Yeah. And trade dress is how the product is presented. Let me see if there's anything in here. Okay, here's an example of trade dress. Now, so this is Toblerone. Toblerone's pretty famous. Forget about the whole triangular package, right? Let's just say that this was a normal rectangular package. And
is there still chocolate in there by any chance?
Yeah, there's chocolate in here. I didn't eat it. I tend to leave the props alone.
Yeah, wow.
And you know what? This isn't that great anyway. I don't really like it. So it's easy to leave it alone.
Yeah, I'll leave the props alone too.
Oh gosh, that's funny. I actually do have a beer bottle here with beer in it. I'm not a beer drinker, so it's easy for me to leave that alone too. See, I leave them alone as long as I don't like them. Anyway, so let's say that somebody else had a candy bar and they called it something completely different from Toblerone, but it had the red lettering on the yellow background and the lettering was in the same font as Toblerone. Now, that would probably be considered a trade dress infringement because this is a pretty famous, even though they're not violating the trademark, right? In that the word that they're using is different, right? But if the yellow, the red on the yellow is the same, and the font is the same, such that it looks a lot like it could be Toblerone, that's going to be trademark infringement because you're infringing their trade dress.
Yeah.
So anytime you're sort of confusing the consumer about the source of the goods, who's making the goods, like, oh, I wonder if Toblerone made that, right? Because the trade dress is the same as Toblerone's. That's going to be a trademark violation, a trade dress violation. So you have to be careful when you are like, don't copy anything famous, right? Like this is famous. Everybody knows this, right? Yeah. So don't copy other people's stuff. I mean, most of these violations wouldn't happen if people just remembered that. Like, don't copy other people's stuff. Make your own stuff. Now, sometimes making your own stuff is making fun of other people's stuff, right? That's where, you know, the South Butt and Lardash came along, and a lot of these parody things, right? Like, I don't know if I have any parody goods. I keep stuff in my bookcase. I'm sitting down right now for this interview, but if I was standing up, in the background of my videos, you can see a bunch of stuff like the Brillo box. Everybody asks me about the stupid Brillo box. Why is it back?
What's a Brillo box?
You know, oh, here, I'll show you. I'll show you. Okay, so this is one of my favorite trademarks. These are for, they're basically steel wool pads that are impregnated with soap, right? They're for cleaning. But this is one of my favorite trademarks just because it's kind of fun. Anyway, yeah, so it's back there on the bookshelf and everyone's like, why do you have that there? Well, I use these toys or props or whatever you want to call them to illustrate different trademark points, right? Like I use this one. I could use it to talk about trade dress. Maybe I'll do something about trade dress. But you know, I use this to illustrate shape as a trademark because this shape, this candy shape, is actually registered as a trademark. Nobody else can make candy in the shape of this triangle. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Could you use that same font in a design?
Sorry?
Could you use the same font, like imply that it's like, again, I guess it'd probably a bit like parody, but use the font that Toblerone uses with the red coloring and the on a creamy colored shirt. Would that be okay if you didn't mention that it was Toblerone, but the clear intent was for you to assume that?
Parody. Sure, you could get away with parody, right? Yeah. I don't know what you would be parodying with Toblerone. But if it's parody, you know, you get some extra leeway with parody. If you're, you know, the South Butt or Lardash, or there were some other funny ones for parody. But yeah, there's a line there. It's a fuzzy line. We don't know where the line is. There's a line there between trademark infringement and parody, right? Like, are you really trying to make people believe that this is produced by Toblerone? If you are, it's probably trademark infringement. And if you're just making some sort of like, you know, snarky comment or social commentary about Toblerone, it's probably not trademark infringement and it's probably parody, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of it is, how is it perceived by consumers? Do consumers perceive it as the real thing, or do they perceive it as a parody, right? Is it so ridiculous? Like, who would make the South Butt? That's clearly parody, right? It's so stupid and it's so ridiculous that it has to be parody, because nobody would really do that for real, you know?
Had this issue recently. A site took down my design as I titled it Seagull T-shirt, and someone has trademarked Seagull, so they took it down preemptively with no complaint.
Oh, that's kind of surprising. Yeah. So, you know, people often ask me, can such and such platform do this? And I'm like, well, it's their platform. They can kind of do whatever they want, right?
Yeah.
So people get really frustrated at Amazon or, you know, Shopify for taking things down.
It's typically an algorithm that's taking it down, isn't it?
I don't know. Most of this enforcement is complaint driven, because think about it. Yeah. When they take your stuff down, they're losing sales, right? So they're not often going to take it down unless somebody complains. So unless it's like super obvious. Like there was a case, I did a video about this too, where Sunfrog was selling Harley Davidson knockoffs. They got in big trouble for that, partially because they lied and said to the court that they had taken it down, but they didn't, because they were making so much, Sunfrog was making so much money from selling the knockoffs, right? Because they get their part. They get their commission. What do they care? They didn't want to stop. And they got sued for tens of millions of dollars for this.
It's a tricky one. Like a lot of the platforms went through like particularly early on. Teespring, not so much.
Mm.
They may have had a lawsuit or two, but there was some platforms that were just constantly being hammered with lawsuits left, right, and center.
Yeah, well, because they knew that they were helping people infringe and making money off of the infringements themselves.
Yeah.
So they had zero incentive to enforce, and they had to be sued to comply.
Yeah. Harley Davidson's one that really likes going after people too, apparently.
Oh, yeah. They're very aggressive because every T-shirt that somebody else sells is money out of their pocket.
Yeah. And that's somebody else has mentioned Jeep and Chrysler are no-goes in Australia. What else? I saw one here before. I've had car images removed from eBay, just a drawing, nothing saying it was from the car company.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, these platforms are kind of a law unto themselves.
Yeah.
So, they can pretty much do what they want, and the users don't really have much recourse.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing, like you're selling on their platform, so we're at their mercy.
You are really at their mercy. Yeah, unfortunately.
What they say goes. And people are talking a lot about the Olympics and Euro Cup these days.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the same with sports teams? Like I know that, excuse me, I know the Olympic rings are a no-go.
Yeah.
But can you do anything implying that, there's sport happening in Tokyo?
I just had somebody ask me all this stuff. And, they have rules about all of that. And they actually have a page. I forget. I was going to do a video about this because it's so timely. They actually have a page saying, don't do this. Like, the U.S. Olympic Committee, they have a page basically saying, stay away from these things. These are our marks. I mean, generally speaking, anything that implies an association, a false association with the Olympic Committee or any Olympic, official Olympic team, that's probably going to be a problem.
Yeah. And I guess a big question for this is, apart from being just at the mercy of the platforms, is there any personal liability, considering like where everyone's international, like no one is in America, it could be Bangladesh, Africa, Australia. Is there any personal liability with any of this? Like, do you know how that works? Okay,
well, yes, you may be in Bangladesh or Nigeria or wherever, but you can still be sued. You can be, we call it being hailed into court. You can still be hailed into federal court and, required to defend a lawsuit. And if you default, meaning you don't show up and you don't answer, they can take a default judgment and go and seize your assets, right?
Wow.
So if you're selling and you're earning money here in the United States, the money that you're earning on Shopify or whatever platform can be seized to satisfy a judgment here in the United States.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't think that you're going to get away with stuff just because you're not here.
I hope you're listening, guys.
Yeah. Because a defendant here in the, a plaintiff here in the United States, there's actually a mechanism for serving you overseas. We basically serve your embassy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So,
and that
there's a way to do that. The litigators know how to do that. You won't get away with it. If it's a big company who has lots of money to sue you, you're not going to get away with it because they have a vested interest in either making an example of you or getting money from you, and they will do that.
And there's companies now offering print on demand or made on demand, like nutritional supplements and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if this is in your court being trademark law, but in terms of like insurance and stuff like that, do the internationals need to have insurance, like public liability insurance and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a corporate governance question, like, do you have the money to pay claims here in the United States if you get sued? Or the FDA comes after you for whatever claims, I mean, you know, that's an issue you have to talk about with your insurance company, I guess. But yeah, people who are outside of the United States, don't think that the FDA can't come after you or trademark holders can't come after you. They can and they will.
Yeah. Awesome. This has been amazing, Angela.
Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. It was fun. Let's do it again.
I want to. I've just started YouTube. I've been TikToking my heart out for the last 4 months. Like it's insanely good. There's so much like good quality content on there as well, outside of what I'm sharing.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool platform. Like it's only 60 seconds that you've got, up to 60 seconds, and it's all like you have to get to the point very, very quickly in that space. It cuts the fluff.
Can't you upload 3 minutes now? I read that you can upload longer videos now.
Yeah, as soon as you hit 10,000 followers, you can do 3-minute videos. So I just hit 30,000 followers overnight in 4 months. So
awesome.
Now I'm closing in on 1,000 on YouTube. I want 10,000 by Christmas. So it's all happening, but it's crazy. I've gone into this area where, you know, I had a lot of success with e-commerce myself, print on barn specifically, but teaching is just, it's something about it. It's fun.
Yeah.
Recording, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I like to teach, and that's why I create the courses that I create, because I really feel like content creators and people who are selling things like print on demand, they need more guidance, you know, because there's so much misinformation out there on the internet.
Yeah.
And the rules are super fuzzy. They're really fuzzy. So it can be frustrating to know what you can do and you can't do. So I have a lot of sympathy.
And look, that's why I started Store Hacks, because there's so many people coming into the industry, and they're doing it completely wrong, making it incredibly difficult. Like Facebook would put, they would put such a strong enforcement just on us and the way we were selling, because people were just blatantly doing the wrong thing. So I'm like, well, we need some information to be able to get out there to these guys and say, don't do this, do that. This is how you do it. From somebody that's had success. That's what can I say? I'm a martyr.
Good. Yeah, it's great. No, and then the people who make a mess of it, they mess it up for everybody too. You know?
It makes it extremely difficult. But thank you. I said I wouldn't go for the hour, but look at this.
Oh no, it's fine. It's good. And we started a little bit late anyway, because I got stuck on that phone call. But this has been fun. This has been really fun. And listen, if your people, your peeps, if they would find it valuable to do an Ask Me Anything, I'm certainly willing to do that. Yeah,
I think they would for sure. But for now, they can find it at the trademarkdoctor.net.
Yeah, for now, go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, because I put out new content on the regular, and you're going to find my newest content there.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I only put out a blog every week on trademarkdoctor.net, so that's not where most of the good content is. The good content's all on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, sweet.
So if you go to YouTube and search Trademark Doctor, you'll find me there.
Sounds great. And while you're at it, make sure you go to Ronnie McKenzie and subscribe there as well. Thank you so much, Angela. It's been fun.
Oh, you're welcome. This has been fun, Ronnie.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye.